In this video, I want to show you a real-life process for how I would assess privacy issues and function in a landscape. So one of my students was nice enough to let me use the photo of her property. While this isn't really her project, some of the issues that she was having are issues that I know a lot of you are having. So we're going to take that photo. I'm not using any fancy software. I'm just going to be on my iPad drawing over the photo in a program called Procreate. And I'm going to be talking you through all the different ways that I would think about privacy and how to address that privacy using design to solve those problems. So I think this is going to be a really interesting and fun way to look at privacy and just get you thinking outside the box for all of this. So let's just jump right into the iPad and we'll get into this project. I always say start with the structure and the backbone of your garden or your yard or your property, and try to think about it in the wintertime when nothing is blooming and you kind of have these clear views. So this view here, this picture here, is taken from inside the home. So this is what they'll be looking at for the majority of the year. So I think this is a really good view to use if you have an inside view from the home that you want to try out. Snap a picture of it and you can follow along with what I'm about to do. And then they took a picture also of this upper deck that's here, and they kind of showed where they're having issues with some privacy and some ugly views. So the first thing to do is really just to assess the property, take a look at it, make sure you know which direction your property is facing, and then you want to start marking down anything that is ugly or bad that you want to hide, or even potentially something that you want to emphasize. In this particular project, there really isn't anything that they like and they want to emphasize, so I'm going to be focusing on marking the things that they really don't like and that we need to address. And as you come up with these things, you're going to be able to use design to fix these problem areas. So the biggest one that I see, obviously there's a power line coming here, and there's not much that we can do about that, especially from this above view. But this is a real eyesore in my opinion, especially from this upper deck, and even from when they're sitting on the deck, they have to look at this garage and somebody's car is here. So just sort of Xing these things off, like I want to block these things, is where I would start with this particular property. And then if you take a look at the seating area here, you'll see that they have neighbors and there's two decks over here. So that would be in this area here. So we really have to come up with a solution over here to kind of hide these neighbors and make this a little bit more private and make their space in general a little bit more private. And then this area in the back here is kind of an eyesore right now, so we either have to come up with a solution to this eyesore, like designing that space, or at the very least blocking this part off from the property as well, so that we're not looking at all of that. Now we kind of have the outside edges. It doesn't look like there's too many problems over here, but we have to block a lot on this side and potentially over here. And the next thing to look at is if you already have a position for a dining area or a lounge area or something like that, can you take a picture from sitting in that area and just sort of assess. So right now it seems like they have a dining area here. If we plan to keep it in this particular area, the neighbors from above here are also going to be able to see down into this. So at that point, we may need some kind of wall or screen or even a cover over top of this dining area. So really all I'm doing is I'm just sort of coming up with ways, very general spots where we need to really focus on. And if there was a beautiful vista over here and we wanted to keep it open, I would probably just leave that open and make a note on here. The other things that you want to think about when you're going through this process are external things. Usually I call this a site inventory, and inside of my Plant Perfect activity book, I have an entire area that kind of covers how to go about a site inventory. But this book is awesome. I put it together so that you can go through this entire process with me. I highly recommend grabbing a copy of it, and it'll show you that entire site inventory process. But some of the big things are the direction of the wind. Typically, prevailing winds are east to west if you're not sure, or if you don't have that issue on your property that you can see. But other things that you want to watch out for are something like road noise. So maybe there's road noise over here. So we want to watch out for the privacy, the road noise, and the wind coming from any directions outside of your property. So now that we have this area kind of settled and figured out, what I want to do is kind of zoom in on this spot here, because this is definitely a big issue. Again, you have this shed here or a garage here that's very not nice to look at. Then you have the views from the neighbors in this area. So a lot of people will be like, what can I do? What can I plant to kind of stop this? And a lot of times we're thinking about the actual property line and going as far over as possible. In this situation, you could actually solve the majority of these onlooking problems right on this patio here. So what I would actually do, let me just grab a different color here. What I would probably do in this situation is I would move this table kind of over this way, and then I might do some kind of like a bench seating or a planter. So if we did something that was right along this rail here, excuse my messy drawing, but this is just the reality of how it works. You just got to get your ideas down. You don't have to be a professional artist to kind of figure these things out for yourself. So if that's a bench seating, I would also do some kind of lattice that goes up. So here off of the porch here, and maybe bring this post up as well. And then I'd kind of install some kind of structure here. And in this structure, maybe, like I said, maybe it's a lattice. And then we could plant a vine or something up that lattice. In that case, we may actually need to make this a planter area or kind of extend this out further so there's space for these vines to be installed, and then seating in front of that. So that's sort of one thing that I would try. Another thing I might try is putting a roof over this. Something, so we kind of have the sides here, and we'd have a roof that goes across, and then using a curtain, maybe a curtain's hanging or something like that to kind of hide these views, make it really pretty. And then you could put like containers in between to sort of soften things up a bit. But you wouldn't have to go outside of this actual porch area to address this ugly view here and this neighbor view here. So I just wanted to point that out, that it doesn't necessarily have to be right on here. And quite honestly, especially for this side here where the neighbors are, we really don't have any other option other than to do it up on this porch area because of these spots here. So at the very least, you would have some kind of screening right here to block the neighbors. And then for this garage out here, another option would be in the yard to do a very large, like a shade tree or something like that. This would cover the majority of that as it grows. So a very large structural tree to kind of block that view, which is way in the corner of the property along the fence there, or somewhere along here, and then blocking there. So those are a couple options for addressing the privacy issues. And then if you come back to this one, say we had road noise over here and we were wanting to put a patio or something in this area, what I would do is really either use shrubbery or use a water feature or use something to drown out that noise. So you want to think about those things before you actually position different pieces into your property. You want to think about, okay, well, maybe I don't want the patio over here because there is so much road noise coming from this direction. Maybe this is a better area for it. And just sort of think about different ways that you could solve these problems before you even get started. Because if you do that, you're going to be in a lot better position for a beautiful design that is not only gorgeous and it's your dream garden, but it's also really functional. Because if you don't get the function right from the beginning, you're just going to be constantly battling these types of problems in your landscape. So there you have it. Those are the exact steps that I would take to assess a property for privacy issues and use design to solve those problems. In the meantime, I know you're probably also wondering what to do next. Like, what do you do to lay out the rest of the space? So in the next video, which will be right here, I'm going to show you exactly how I'd go through a client's wish list and start to lay out the different areas of the property. So I'll see you over in that video.